Hello and welcome to the SBN Newscast with your hosts Scott and Kendra. Over the last week, you may have seen our ask of our global community for financial support. This support is to help us sustain and strengthen the not-for-profit social enterprise that is SBN. Personally, I'm extremely proud to be the head of community at this organisation, and I'm especially proud of what we've achieved in the last year as a team. Over the last year, we have continued to deliver support and grow our global community. We have delivered so many events, I've lost count, but I hear that it's well over the 100 mark, and we've brought together over 5,000 people globally. We've also grown our ambassadorial network, and we now have 24 ambassadors globally supporting our team, our members, and sharing their expertise and global reach. We are passionate about achieving further growth to enhance our deliverables to our community and support their growth aspirations. And for us at SBN, we have our own ambition. Our ambition is to become the world's largest diaspora organisation, demonstrating best practice among fellow diaspora engagement organisations. And we're asking you to support us with these efforts as we strive to reach key goals, add value to our growing community, and make meaningful connections. Our donation link is included below, and we'd greatly appreciate your financial support and help in amplifying this message and advocating for our mission at SBN.
Thanks very much for that, Kendra. Yeah, as you say, details are down below for that. But before we get started with our speakers today, it's been a busy couple of weeks with some key news stories and events I'd like to highlight. We're going to start with Paul Scovrin and 3in Consulting launched their recruitment cost calculator recently. It's designed to help businesses estimate the cost of hiring or replacing the great talent within their organisation. So it really helps you be prepared. MBN Solutions, along with a slick new website, also launched their new data science podcast, I Write. You can find that on your preferred podcast player just by searching MBN Solutions. Speaking of podcasts, we had episode 66 of the SBN podcast series go live last week. This week it features an interview with Dr. Marie Macklin, CBE, so you can just search Scottish Business Network to check that one out. There was some tremendous news from bidding and tender experts AM Bid as they announced that they were on track to report a £1 million turnover for the first time after rebounding so strongly from the effects of national lockdown. So massive congratulations to Andrew Morrison, David Gray and the whole team at AM Bid. Today's the final day you need to register for the STV for the £100,000 of free advertising they have made available to businesses championing diversity through the STV Growth Fund. If you want to apply, get your applications into gifted memberships at stv.tv by 11 p.m. tonight. You can find the application in the description of this video. And then along with these opportunities, to help grow your business, you might also want to check out Rebecca Wilson's article on how to pick the best advisors for your business. You can see that on our LinkedIn, on the members portal, and also on the SBN website. She covers some of the key questions to ask when looking for that. And as always, keep an eye out for the India Weekly Updates written by SBN Ambassador in Bangalore, Tom Thomas. Tom collates some of the key stories and opportunities coming out of Karnataka and the rest of India, along with some important updates about the country and any Scottish businesses that might want to export there. But that's for the news. There's also some key events that are coming up, so keep your eyes peeled for the Impact Summit, hosted by FutureX next week on the 19th and 20th of May. The Impact Summit is Europe's leading purpose-led business event. It's an annual gathering for those who dream of thriving a global economy that puts people and the planet at its very heart. You can get your tickets for that next week on the link below. Homes for Good are continuing their events where they share their award-winning social enterprise approach, which has made them such a success. So they're sharing that approach in a series of webinars. They've got their first event next week on May 18th and the second one on June 1st. So be sure to check them out. Speaking of STV, their Growth Academy have the monthly event for May on the 27th. This month, they're going to be covering how to drive innovation and growth through sustainability. And on that theme, the Net Zero Scot community also have an event on the 27th. We are bringing the wider community together to update you all on our growth, our COP26 fringe event plans, as well as explaining how you can join our Race to Zero accelerator and really prepare your business for becoming net zero. After all that, there's also some SBN events to keep your eye out for. We're bringing the members together next Tuesday on the 18th for a Scottish Business Showcase. This is going to feature another members-only masterclass, as well as hearing from some of the ambitious business leaders within the network. So check that out on the members portal. And finally, we've got a special conference this June where we revisit the topic of diaspora, networking and entrepreneurship. Join us on June 15th as we partner with diaspora organisations from Wales, New Zealand, Ireland and of course Scotland as we focus on how the power of diaspora networks can support entrepreneurs and businesses at home. But that's for what's coming up. Kendra, who are we speaking to today?
We're delighted to welcome John Harbour, Director of Exclusive Scottish Events. Hello, John.
Hello, Kendra. Lovely to see you.
Now, our audience might recognise you because the last time you joined us, you were talking about chocolate and whiskey and you got our taste buds going, but it's a different conversation today.
Great.
So do you want
I was going to say you can't beat chocolates and whiskey, but I hope to be able to do that on this little conversation.
I think you do pretty well in this one. So do you want to start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit more about Exclusive?
Indeed. My name is John Robert Mackay Harbour, retired naval officer about 8 years ago. And on retiring, I decided I had to keep doing something with the grey matter and the body. And I decided to start a small company called Exclusive Scottish Visits, which effectively is a tour company that takes anybody from one person up to about 19 around Scotland at their leisure. We go anywhere, anytime. It's one of those places. I also qualified as a Blue Badge Guide to give me the professional element to my job. Anyway, Exclusive Scottish Visits was born. I've had some fantastic fun. I have been everywhere with some wonderful guests from all over the world, mainly America. And everything was great until a little bug arrived about 18 months ago and it came crashing to a halt. And of course, things have moved on since then as well. But that gives you an outline of what I've done and where I'm coming from.
And last time you joined us, you spoke about how you've evolved your offering and you were talking about your Unique Scotland podcast, which is now on the 22nd episode. So can you share some highlights of the conversations you've had?
Wow, well, exactly 22 episodes already, and the next 2 are already in the can. Watch this space. I think when COVID struck and clearly all of my bookings for last year cancelled at a stroke, I'm delighted to see about 60-70% moved to 2021 this year. Another story on that as well. But at least I didn't lose the business. I just meant that I was going to be doing nothing for a year now. I considered a number of things. One, increasing my time with the grandchildren. That was okay, but I had to rethink that one. 2, spending a lot more time on the golf course. And you can only play so much golf. More walks, more reading, clearing the garage that I'd needed to do for about 20 years. All of these things swam into view, but I still knew I had to do something else. And really, because I love Scotland and Scottish history, and I wanted just to keep the brain alive in terms of Scotland, I decided to do my podcasts. And those were born out of a wish really to keep touring. Because as I mentioned to you before, Kendra, I get my map and I go into a zone. I'm still, I can imagine all the places I'm visiting. And I just talk about it on the podcast and that sort of comes out. I started, I was thinking I'd do 2 or 3. And as you see, I'm up to 22, it'll soon be 25. And there's no end in sight. I love it. I do love it. And thank you to all of you out there who listen to me, send me wonderful emails, very encouraging emails. And I've had some great chats with people, especially the Mackays. I'm a Mackay myself, and they seem to love all the information on the Mackay clan.
Amazing. And for anybody that's watching that hasn't listened to his podcast yet, you can get it on your website at exclusive Scottish visits.co.uk.
That's right.
Better get that one right.
Yeah,
and we'll
please
put
get
the
it.
link below. And
that's fine.
John, with your career and experience as a tour guide and the success of this podcast and how you've grown your audience globally, it's led to you launching tours where you actually share a piece of Scotland virtually. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and the journeys you've been on?
Indeed, thank you, Kendra. It really came about because about October last year, I realized that with COVID, the bug was not just going to go away anytime soon. And I started noticing my conversations with my clients that had moved to 2021, who were coming in about March, April, May, that they were getting a bit nervous. So I made the decision basically to cancel all my tours up to June, or move them to 2022. And I'm delighted to say some of the people who were meant to be with me last year are now coming to me in 2022. And even then I was thinking June, I'm probably being a bit optimistic. So I thought, right, well, I can't just do podcasts. As much as I love them, they're slightly limiting in terms of what I can do. So I thought, right, what I need to do is not just take the spoken word into the living rooms of people all over the world. I need to let them see this wonderful place. So I decided to do virtual tours. And effectively, I employ a cinematographer, a lovely guy, Andy from ADD Studios, ADD Studios, just give him a wee plug there. Andy, super guy. And he and I now go off in the car all over Scotland. And I have a little script, and I try and direct and produce at the same time, as well as act, the usual one-man band. And he produces the videos, at the end of which then I advertise them on Eventbrite through my Facebook page. And I'm delighted to say people have now started joining me on my virtual tour. So I basically sit like this on a Zoom call and then transfer to sharing screen and bring up all the videos, the photographs, and the stories of the Scotland that we see. And I've had a tremendous response, and it is super to do. A lot of work, a hell of a lot of work, but yeah, it's great.
Amazing. And I'm sure people love going on those adventures with you and Andy. And I've seen a couple of them, and they look absolutely fantastic. And for the people that haven't joined one of your virtual tours yet, where are you going next? So where's on the horizon, and how can people see the ones that they've potentially missed?
Yeah. Well, I started actually with Loch Lomond and Trossachs. I thought that would be easiest because it's on my doorstep. I live in Helensburgh, and it's just literally a stone's throw across the hill. And that was really great fun. And I had lots of footage before, and I was standing on top of Duncrine Hill, talking about Loch Lomond in the background. Basically, they're advertised through Eventbrite, which is a platform which brings it together and then connects with Zoom. I advertise on my Facebook page. It goes out on all of my channels, such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I think there's one or two other places it can be found as well. But basically, if you can't find me in any of those, my website at www.exclusivescottishvisits.co.uk, there's a button at the on the very front page, and it takes you to the virtual tour page, and you can see where it's going. And what I've done so far, Castles, Castles 1, and I was delighted to go up to Inveraray as one of the castles that I visited and filmed, and was able to interview the Duke of Argyll himself, the chief of Clan Campbell, Torquil Campbell, and he was gracious enough to come out, and we had a lovely chat, just standing in front of the castle. It was a beautiful day that day. The daffodils were out, and we had a lovely chat. The other one I've done recently is Outlander, something that I got into rather late, but it's clearly a craze in America in particular, and Canada. And while visiting one of the sites, Glencorse Old Kirk, and for Outlander fans, you'll know that as the place where Jamie and Claire get married, I was lucky enough once again to interview Sarah Chambers, who is a member of the family who own Glencorse House. Wonderful location. So you can see it's great. Apart from having recently interviewed Charlie McLean, the whiskey guru, and Ian Burnett, the chocolate guru, it's nice just to go and meet people and get their story on the ground, and that in itself is, worth its weight in gold.
Amazing. And do we have any idea of when the potential next event could be? Any kind of
you have interrupted me, Kendra, because the script has just been finalised this morning for shipbuilding on the Clyde. The River Clyde, which runs through the middle of Glasgow, is a phenomenal place. If you go back to the 6th and 7th centuries, this was a very important part of the world, because this is where the Gaels came, this is where eventually the Vikings came, and and they took over the western seaboard. But from about about 1711, I think the first shipyard was built. And in the space of a couple of hundred years, there have been about 25, nearly 35,000 ships built on the Clyde. And during the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was the biggest shipbuilder in the world. So there's a lot of stories to tell. It's a story like the Lusitania that was built here, sadly sunk by a German U-boat during the Second World War, and probably brought the Americans into the war, just that one act. The QE2, of course, was built on the Clyde, and there's many other stories of of Clyde shipbuilding, and of course, sadly, the decline. And some of the footage you'll get is me traveling with Andy around the River Clyde, which I can actually see from my window here, and see what it is today, but also then the regeneration. There's a wonderful regeneration project that's going on. So I think this will interest quite a lot of people. And this now is before, and I'm just starting the script for Isle of Skye. Isle of Skye Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. And Andy and I are booked to go away in June to film in Skye. And I'm going to bring Skye into your living room, basically, is what I'm doing with my virtual tours.
I love that. That's amazing. And thanks for joining us. And obviously, we will include the links to your website where people can access the podcast and hear more about the virtual tours, which are also on Eventbrite. And we'll be doing our bit at SBN to amplify this with our diaspora that will love to have a piece of Scotland in their living room. And just as you leave, John, we're actually going to share one of your virtual tour adverts so that people can see a little bit more about what it involves. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure, Kendra. You take care, and my best wishes to all our Scottish Business Network colleagues as well. Thank you.
I would like to welcome our next guest, Lynzi Leroy, Director of the Scottish Design Exchange. Thank you very much for joining us, Lynzi. Before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks for inviting me along. I'm Lynzi Leroy. I'm the Director of the Scottish Design Exchange, which is a not-for-profit business that helps artists and designers to display their work in a retail environment in Scotland. And we have a store in Edinburgh on George Street and a store in Glasgow in Buchanan Galleries.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to finally coming along. It's been a long time since you've come into the community and I've not had a chance to go along yet. But I was just going to ask you to tell us a little bit more about Design Exchange, because it's not your average gallery, is it? It's got a bit more of a message behind it.
No, not at all. In fact, we're not a gallery, and we're more of a product and retail store. And so what we help the artists to do is to use their artwork and their designs to develop products. A product range to sell, so that can be anything from prints, cards, coasters, right up to original artwork. And the concept was really after the last recession, when we saw the sort of downturn in the high street. I realised that there was nothing in Scotland at the time in 2015 that really brought artists to the high street. So we were looking for a space that was with a high footfall area to give the artists really the best opportunity to sell their work. It's worked really well. We've sold over £3 million worth of products since we opened. And what's different about us is we're not for profit. We're not here to make money out of the artists. So what we do is we look at the space and we cover our costs basically by divvying up the space and renting that out to the artists. Mm-hmm. And then they get to keep 100% of the sales. So there's no commission on the products. All the sales go direct to the artists. And basically we are interested in covering our costs and providing staff to run the business.
Yeah, it's very much a place that puts the artist at its heart. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your journey. So you identified in 2015 there isn't a place like this in Scotland. How did you then go from idea to concept now, being in the two hubs of the Scottish population?
It was quite difficult to get started, to be honest, to get somebody to take up the idea. And we looked at a few places, but what I knew is that if we were on even just off the high street or in a sort of back area, that people just don't make the effort to come. And what we wanted is passing trade and people to go, oh, what's this, and come into the shop. So we were lucky enough to get an opportunity in Ocean Terminal, and they gave us a unit to trial this for free rent. I put my own money in to start the business, invested my own money, and basically we had 6 months to make it work. And it started from there, and it grew and grew. You know, the more artists that came along and were making money, the more they would tell other artists that this was a good thing. So now we support 320 artists between the two stores.
Wow. So it's amazing, and it's always been in my experience, an under sort of supported community of people, especially. I mean, I went to Queen Margaret University and a lot of friends who worked in the arts, and their whole plan was always, well, once we graduate, we're going to have to save up money to live in London, because they almost identified that there wasn't the support network here. So, so do you have a history in the arts as well, where your passions lie, and that's what drove you to this network?
No, in fact, the good thing about my background is more business. I spent a long time living in Holland, working for Shell and Nokia and KPN Quest out there. So I'm a sort of project management business background. And that's really what the artists need. You know, the artists need to focus on making their work and being the artist, and letting us take care of the business side for them. So yeah, we do a lot of work with the artists if they need it. On the business side, but basically we want them to focus on what they're good at and allow us to take care of the rest.
Excellent. So as we record this, Scotland has recently relaxed a lot of its COVID restrictions, with more set to be relaxed in the future. So we're hoping to see a summer where the art lovers are back on the street and maybe looking to come through the Scottish Design Exchange doors. So I was just wondering if you could tell us some of the things that we could look out for this summer and throughout the rest of 2021.
Well, we've got a lot going on this year. Yeah, you know, we're feeling very positive, and the footfall's coming back, and especially in our Glasgow store, where we're a bit more established, because we moved in Edinburgh recently from Ocean Terminal up to George Street. But we, you know, our customers are still supporting us, and they know that when they come to us, that they know where their money is going, so they're more likely to buy from us than other places. I don't know if you know, the normal gallery model is they'll take 50% commission from the artist.
Wow.
And so that's quite difficult for the artist to work with, you know. But yeah, we've got we have Meet the Artist, Meet the Makers once a month, where you can come in and you'll see artists working and get a chance to chat and talk to them. And between the two stores, we've always got something going on, events throughout the year. Also online, you know, we sell online, but there's a lot of information about the artists. You can find out a little bit about their backgrounds. And there's some interviews on our website with them. So yeah, I think what the customers like about the store when they come in is it's very friendly, it's very relaxed, and we get customers coming in for half an hour, 40 minutes, really spending time wandering around. They don't feel like they need to be rushed.
Brilliant. Well, we're just thrilled to have you on, and also to hear that with things opening up, footfall's coming back. We will definitely be pushing. You can find in the links of this video links to the website, when you can see the new stunning place on George Street as well. So, Lynzi, thank you very much for joining us for this session so far.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to John and Lynzi, our guests on today's show, for joining us.
Yep, and as Kendra mentioned, we have started our fundraising campaign. We're looking for your financial support to sustain and enhance the not-for-profit social enterprise that is Scottish Business Network. Your contributions will help propel us forward into an exciting future. And as we say, you can read more about that in the links below. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.